It's time to change our tune. When everyone is playing from the same sheet of music, the chance to make something special presents itself. Just imagine the potential to heroically pull salmon from the edge of extinction if the combatants in the struggle over water actually agreed with each other. Sure, you might have some bumps along the way, but there is great potential that by working together, we can make meaningful progress in stopping salmon's march to oblivion, if we play the same tune. These are headlines from the 1980s that speak to the power of the Westlands Water District, their power and their problems. Fast forward to 2011 and the story is the same. Westlands, still powerful, still needing lots of water, still riddled with toxic land, still looking for a way to get rid of their poisoned water. What if they took that problem land out of production? What if they stopped irrigating it? There are a lot of folks who say that is exactly what should happen. Turn off the water for good.
We need to shut down the badlands. We need a program to transition the Westlands farmers into a much smaller operation over there. For one, because there's not enough water, and two, because they're irrigating toxic soils. But we're spending billions of taxpayer dollars on them anyway, so let's get them into an activity that doesn't poison downstream waters.
It's hard for me not to think that in the long run, reality is going to set in, the physical reality, the hydrologic reality, the economic reality, and that Westlands is going to be further constrained in what they do. Some of that land is bad quality land and shouldn't have been brought into production. The truth is that there's not enough water to meet the demands that they are putting on the system. And we have a choice. We can satisfy everyone's demands and tell the environment to go to hell, which I think would be a bad choice, or we can try and bring the system back into balance.
Salmon is a remarkably resilient fish. This is a tough cookie of a fish compared to many other fishes out there. And that means that if we provide them with improved conditions and the environmental conditions that they need, they're going to be able to bounce back. The fact that they haven't over the past 20 years means that we haven't been doing our job well enough in the way that we manage the resources, the water, the rivers, the estuary, that we haven't done enough yet, but that we need to do more in the future, because if we do it, this is a species that can come back and the fishery can come back for all of us.
Let's face it, there's never going to be enough water in California, so we can either not have enough water with salmon or not have enough water without. So what's it going to be? The science is clear that the troubled Delta estuary is suffering from multiple maladies, but the overwhelming evidence is that it needs more freshwater flows, and excessive water diversions must be reduced. A huge amount of the water being diverted is used on the west side of the Central Valley.
We have to find a better way to move the water that originates in the Sacramento River watershed to the southern part of the Delta so that it can be pumped.
The seemingly never-ending demands of Westlands comes with their own admission that much of their land is toxic, and even more of it has significant salt problems that require massive amounts of water. Westlands knows that time is running out on much of the land that they have under irrigation. That's why they have already retired 100,000 acres, and they know eventually it will need to fallow much more.
But the main thing is that people have to make up their minds.
Yes, people have to make up their minds. And making up your mind intelligently can be hard work.
Farmers elsewhere in the country are given agricultural subsidies not to grow them, such as cotton in the South, while farmers in California, especially the larger farmers on the west side of the valley, receive agricultural subsidies to grow these surplus crops, and they use a lot of water.
Keeping this land in production, which is really expensive, causes all these other environmental problems down the line, could really be used for much better purposes. For example, you could put it's perfect for solar electricity production.
When a world that had plodded down the centuries suddenly found out how to use a force that had waited to go to work since before the daybreak of history.
It just doesn't make sense to keep this toxic land in production.
So it is possible for landowners in Westlands to thrive without needing the amounts of water that they've insisted that they need. But you say, would Westlands ever agree with that? In fact, they have gone out of their way to promote land retirement. This is their own document that is a starting point to reversing salmon's accelerated race to extinction.
The Westlands is an obvious place you look to because it has the most junior water rights, and it's land that naturally had relatively low rainfall. It has selenium in it, it accumulates salts, so there's all kinds of additional problems with it.
How much water do we have? How much water can this system, this state, its rivers and its groundwater basins reliably produce and supply over the long term? Clearly, we're using more than that is now right now, because our water supply right now is extremely unreliable, and in delivering that water over the past decades, we have caused the degradation of both our rivers and our estuarine ecosystems.
So if you took the salty and high selenium soils on the west side of the San Joaquin Valley, 300,000 to 500,000 acres, you could save at least 1 million acre-feet of water. That water would be dedicated to the Delta.
And we have an ecosystem that is at risk. It's beyond at risk at this point. So we're trying to address all of those things. So there's going to be a need for some kind of a reset, some kind of a come to Jesus about how all our interests can be met and or not met, and frankly tell people that they're not going to get what their expectations are, and they can plan their lives accordingly.
Westlands irrigators know they can't make more water. They know new science confirms the old research that water diversions are the biggest threat to salmon and the Delta. They know that private researchers and government agencies have continually calculated that the most effective and least expensive way to prevent leaching poisons from entering drinking water and ending toxic pollution is to stop irrigating that land. Retire it. Convert it to other uses. Be bold. Be responsible.
We continue to make bad decisions. There will be more competition, farmer versus farmer. There will be more competition, farms versus cities. There will be more environmental and ecological destruction. We'll see the extinction of more salmon runs. We'll see the loss of fishing communities. That path is the wrong path. That's a bad future, and we don't have to go there. But not going there means thinking about where we do want to go, the kinds of things we really value, and moving in a different direction.
That's what I have to do with my own future. I've got to look ahead and imagine.
This Salmon Water Now production documented the policies and behaviors that we believe have contributed to the collapse of salmon. Here is a video we would love to make. But hurry. Time is quickly running out. Swimming against the current is what salmon must do to survive. Westlands landowners can tell their great-grandchildren that when it counted, they swam against the current of the status quo. In the end, they played from the same sheet of music that shocked, surprised, and delighted Californians desperate for a real solution to decades of arguments. They retired their badlands and made a difference. They prevented the extinction of salmon, California's most senior water rights holder. They made what has been so wrong right again by turning their irrigation water into salmon water now.